as $20,000 over a 5-year period. And then if we look at the reseller who sold this solution, the reseller made 6 points. So $500 on this sale once off, and that was it. So in the 5-year period, the reseller made $500 in commission on that sale, and that was it. Now if we contrast that to the same end user using the SOS Cloud, his total cost per year is $1,000, which was only 16% of their total first-year cost compared to the hardware solution. And over the 5-year period, only $5,000. So depending on whether you cost labor in, online backup was half as cheap or perhaps as much as, I beg your pardon, half as expensive, or perhaps as much as only a quarter of the cost of the hardware-based solution. But the most important thing for the audience today is the margin that the reseller made. So on that first-year sale of $1,000, the reseller still made $500, exactly the same margin, despite the fact that the cost to the customer was dramatically lower. And then that reseller makes $500 every single year. So over the 5-year period, the reseller makes $2,500 instead of $500. So the cost to your customer is only a fraction of the cost of hardware-based solutions, and the margin to you is recurring and rich on the product that you sell. A couple of other questions. Philip Walker asks, how does this stand up to cloud backup from a cost standpoint? So Philip, this is cloud backup. If you could perhaps clarify what you mean by that, I'd be happy to talk to it. But what I'm talking about here today is SOS Online Backup, which is a form of cloud backup. So then just one-upping online backup to traditional backup solutions. The matrix through which we evaluate is deployment coverage, media recovery, security access, management, and costs down the left. And I won't dwell too long on this particular slide, but generally in every category, online backup or cloud backup dramatically outperforms traditional hardware-based backup. So with deployment, with online backup, you don't need internal IT staff. From a coverage standpoint, hardware-based backup nearly never successfully backs up laptops, branch office, or distributed data, whereas in the online backup world, every single device is constantly connected to the backup cloud. So no matter if it's a laptop moving in and out of multiple corporate networks or a branch office, it's going to be protected. Media, there is no media with online backup, so all of the mess and the fuss associated with rotating media off-site and accessing it is gone. From a recovery standpoint, data is immediately accessible by customers, and in fact, recovery can be delegated all the way down to the user level. So if you've got a customer, say, with 50 employees, each of those employees can recover their own data. They don't even need to escalate to IT, let alone out to you. So this becomes an extremely easy solution for you to sell and then to manage. From a security standpoint, hardware-based backup is subject to failure, theft, and loss. Tape backup has been one of the major sources of the most embarrassing data loss incidents over the last decade, whereas with online backup, data is encrypted to military standards before it even leaves the original source PC. From a management perspective, we were just talking about the labor costs associated with traditional hardware backup. The labor cost is very significant. With online backup, it's set and forget, and there's very, very low cost associated with running it. And then just simple purchase cost, or if we look at TCO, total cost of ownership of online backup versus hardware backup, it can be as much as 80% cheaper or less expensive to use online backup over hardware backup. And then the blue bar, margin and revenue to you as a reseller. On hardware, you're making single-digit margins, it's once-off revenue, and it's very expensive for you to provide ongoing management and support on it. With online backup, you can make as much as 60% margin, and it's recurring revenue that you can count on and get every month or every year, depending on how you bill your clients. So this banner at the bottom of the slide is really what we at SOS are all about. We're here to try and convert backup from being a major customer pain point among your customers and a major cost center for you and your business. We want to convert that into a sales and profit center. Some more questions. Jason Gazdick has asked, what's the speed to restore, say, 10 gigabytes of data as compared to on-site hardware backup solutions? Jason, totally limited by your bandwidth connection, but here in my office I can do 10 gigabytes in just literally 2 or 3 minutes. So you've got real-time access, whereas with tape-based backup to do a recovery, that process will probably involve getting the tape from off-site, so that might take a day for the tapes to be delivered here, then setting up a recovery environment, that's another half a day, loading up the original full backup, and then all of the subsequent incremental backups. That could take several days, depending on how much data we're talking about. Whereas with online backup, I can literally from my iPhone search for the files I want and access them in real time. So we're talking about a recovery window of minutes with online backup versus what could be days with traditional hardware-based backup. Fred Haperl asks, upload bandwidth recommendations, thinking about multiple PCs in a small office. Fred, cable connections will more than adequately provide the type of upstream bandwidth you need. With DSL, you might want to look at the upstream. A lot of DSL providers will advertise a 5 megabit DSL connection, and it will be 5 megabits on the downstream, but on the upload might only be 512 kilobits. So that is something to watch. So let's talk now to the topic of the move to the online backup technology platform that's going on in the industry as a whole. A question we get from a lot of prospective partners is, how big is this market really going to be? What's the opportunity? Haven't I got in too late? Have I missed the boat? All questions around that topic. So just to give you some of the data on the industry, the overall backup industry is roughly a $10 billion industry every year. That's broken out across hardware sales, software sales, and service sales. And then, of course, it's divided between those three industry horizontals of consumer, small business, and enterprise. So it's a very large market. If we look at the total size of the online backup market today, it's sitting at about $1 billion a year. So depending upon where you stand on how much of the overall market online backup will capture, there's a lot of growth left in it. A lot of vendors and experts in the industry think online backup and cloud-based backup, whether it's private cloud in enterprise or public cloud in the small business space, will take as much as 70 to 80% market share. So we'll grow to be a $7 to $8 billion industry. So no matter how you look at the industry, we're still in an early adoption phase. But it's now going mainstream. So we're seeing three-digit growth in the adoption of online backup in the small business space in particular, and it's the most rapidly growing segment. So now is a perfect time to be getting into the market. The technology's proven itself and is now widely accepted, and we're moving into mass market adoption, but it's still early enough that a lot of your customers are still an opportunity for you to go and sell online backup too. Couple more questions. Chuck Wheeler says, what about disaster recovery? Chuck, if you want to expand on that. And Terry Kinney says, if someone discovers that they need an older file recovered, is that easy, even after it has been backed up several times since? Terry, I'm going to talk about that in just a couple of slides, so if I can ask you to wait, that would be great. All right, so actually moving on, we're going to talk about the SOS Cloud Backup technology itself. So there are three philosophies behind the design of the SOS product and product roadmap. And our approach to online backup and cloud-based backup is broader than any of our competitors. We focus on three different things: protecting data, accessing data, sharing data. So protect is about having a world-class, best-of-breed online backup service for backup and recovery operations. Access is the ability to give your customers the power to access their data anywhere at any time from any web-enabled device, an Android, a BlackBerry, an iPhone, it doesn't matter. And share is new ways of transforming that data for collaboration and for easy communication. And online backup is really the cornerstone technology for using data in the cloud and enables much more than just backup. So sitting here in my office, I can search my online backup account, and in my particular account, I can access all the PCs being backed up in the company. So in seconds, I can search across tens of terabytes worth of data and years worth of data and access it in real time. I'm not aware of any other technology that enables me to do that. So, and this really falls into the access component of that tripartite product strategy that we've got. That it's not just about backup. It now gives me an incredible new way to search and index and access and control my data over time. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But some of the product features and highlights that I'm going to speak to is that the product is very rich as it comes out of the box. So it's got continuous data protection, CDP built in. It's not an optional extra the way most companies sell it. Access from anywhere, share to anybody rich media and access and streaming of media to mobile devices. We'll talk about that in a second. Fully integrated local backup. So for the questions we've had already about the speed of local backup versus online backup, well, SOS comes with a full local backup system built into the product. So we would never suggest that you abandon using local backup. We would say continue doing local backup and augment that with online backup for the most critical data. Unlimited archiving, unlimited devices can be protected with an individual account, powerful timeline-based recovery. In fact, I think the next slide is probably the best one for me to talk to each of these individual features. So let's start at the top right with unlimited computers. This is important. Most of the online backup vendors in the market restrict you to have one computer being backed up with one account. So what that means is that if you back up computer A dies, and you need to then recover data on computer B, well, you have to buy another license for computer B. Not so with SOS. With SOS, you can have an unlimited number of devices being backed up, and you can see here in this screenshot that 6 different PCs are being protected by the account, which is extremely powerful in a small business environment. Global roaming access on the bottom left-hand corner. So this is part of our access module and the ability to access your data through any browser-enabled device, whether it's a smartphone or a laptop. Access on iPhone. We've got a dedicated iPhone client that allows you to do all of the access and sharing recoveries, and in the new version you can back up the iPhone as well, right there from your device. So there's a great story from one of our partners who was playing golf on a Sunday and got a phone call from one of his customers. And the customer said, Greg, about 3 years ago we put together a PowerPoint presentation for one of our clients, and I need it tomorrow morning. I know it's somewhere in the backup archive. Can you find it? Well, the way Greg tells the story, with tape-based backup, that would have been a 4-day project to go and retrieve the archives, do the recoveries, and search through all of that data. In fact, it simply would have been impossible. But what Greg did was pulled his iPhone out of his pocket, searched on the iPhone for the file that in question, had to do a few searches, and there was 5 terabytes of data and 5 years worth of versions, found the file in question, emailed it to his client from the golf course. So again, the access enabled by cloud-based backup is an incredibly powerful business feature that I really want to highlight because it's often overlooked by people when looking at online backup as a new technology platform. Free integrated local backup on the bottom right. I've spoken to this, but it's important to note that the software comes with that bundled in. And then on this slide, physical media upload in the middle left, so we can seed the backup. So to the questions earlier about bandwidth, if it's a very large amount of data, you can do the backup to a physical media like a DVD or hard disk and send it in. Powerful recovery. So our recovery system is timeline-based. You can roll back to any date and any point in time and see a snapshot of your data just using the little calendar that's shown in that screenshot there. Flexible scheduling. You can back up hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or even turn on continuous data protection, which will watch individual files and back them up the second they change. So we used to have a marketing slogan, change a file and we'll back it up to 6 data centers within 6 seconds. We've since then changed it so we only back up to 2 data centers, which is still the most comprehensive in the industry. None of our competitors back you up to 2 data centers, but we still do. But very powerful continuous data protection mechanism built in. Unlimited versioning in the bottom middle. This is important. For any file, let's say it's changing every single day, SOS will keep an unlimited history of versions for that particular file. So our competitors will keep 30 versions. So if you've got, say, a QuickBooks database that's changing every day, after 30 days, they'll truncate that version history, whereas SOS will keep every single version and won't bill you for it. We absorb the cost of the unlimited versioning. Now, there was a question earlier about HIPAA compliance, and this is one of the key reasons why SOS is HIPAA compliant, because we can provide you with 7 years of archival storage or whatever your